Well, let me start over. My name is Adnan. I'm a consultant from the Netherlands, and I like to talk to people about Windows, especially Windows 10. Who's running Windows 10 already? Oh, quite a big group. That's good. That's good. Who's still on Windows 7? Windows? Oh, quite a big group as well. That's also nice to see. So a lot of work to be done. 8.1? XP? He probably has a reason. Well, that's where I started, Windows 3.1, with DOS and Windows for Workgroups and all that stuff. So I've pretty much seen them all come along. 95 was a great year, and 98. But I think that the best is yet to come, especially nowadays, right? I mean, things are moving so fast. Who's learned a ton of new stuff this week? There's a lot of new changes, right? A lot of new things, software from everywhere. It's just coming like a factory roll. So I'm here to talk to you guys about the upgrade paths for Windows 10, because this is something that I find still bothers people, where they have a lack of understanding of what Windows as a service means to them. And, you know, it could be one of those things where it's the lingo. You know, you say something as a service, and people think, oh, it must be something new. Well, I'm going to try and explain that to you guys in this session, and hopefully clear up some definitions, so that you guys can see what it is. And basically, as my title explains, it's Windows 10 servicing. So the servicing of your Windows. And the deployment of that as an in-place upgrade. So if you guys want to, later or next week or whenever you come up with a question, you could just tweet it to me on Twitter at microspecialist and just let me know. I like to find out what's happening here in the States, as I'm based in Europe, and we have other laws regarding privacy, compliance, that sort of thing. So it's always interesting to find out what challenges you guys have. So later, after the session, if you have any questions, just come up and we can try and go through them. So Windows as a service concept, I'm really just going to let you guys know what it is, why you need it, or at least how you need to deal with it, and how you implement it. So really, 3 basic principles. Now, with my clients, some clients are still running older operating systems maybe. They haven't moved to Windows 10 as yet. And they're sitting in the enterprise, and quite often, sometimes it's got to do with just their you know, the time frames for running the projects to migrate. Things have been lagging. They think, well, we're still covered with licensing and everything's working anyway, so they haven't quite done that testing for Windows 10 as yet. So a lot of them are still quite new to Windows 10. And the first thing I let them know is, great, you're moving to Windows 10, but do you realize you're getting a new version of Windows 10 every year? In fact, twice yearly. And then it's like, what? Remember how we used to do projects? How long does it take? A week? Well, now it could, maybe. But you know, you guys know, projects take a while. There's a lot of planning involved. A lot of managers, a lot of meetings, a lot of teams. Hardware needs to be ordered. We need to find out how we're going to deploy the software. And quite often, most of the time, it's using Configuration Manager or Deployment Toolkit. Who's running MDT? Okay, bunch of people. Configuration manager. Okay, the rest. And what kind of software are you guys normally using to deploy? Who's doing a lot of manual installs? Anybody doing some scripting? Okay, still a lot going on. Well, ideally, once you have Windows up and running, doesn't matter how you've deployed it initially, whether you're using Configuration Manager or MDT or some other software, I'm really going to show you guys, once it's installed, how you can deal with the new feature updates. Because remember, Windows is also being released through Windows Update as a feature upgrade. We'll go through what the feature upgrade is. So, like I mentioned, with new Windows, you have a new Windows 10 release. Who's a Windows Insider? Who signed up with the Windows Insider program? So those guys that are signed up with the Insider program, they get to get preview builds. So those are the beta test builds that aren't really worked out at all. But Microsoft said, hey, we're not going to build Windows 10 on our own anymore. We're going to use everybody's feedback. We're going to let everybody else tell us what they need, what works, what doesn't work. You know, Microsoft's not really just a company that decides, well, this is what we're going to do. So Microsoft's relying on your feedback. So sign up for Windows Insiders. You get a preview build. So a preview release of Windows. And that gets some testing. And when everything is fixed and done and sorted out, that build becomes released as a preview build or private build. So the idea is to move from, do some testing, help Microsoft with your feedback, and get a good released version of Windows. And once you have that released version of Windows, and you've done your testing, after a certain point in time, you can go and deploy that to everybody. So this is really just a timeline where, to show you guys that about 6 months of active development goes through with the insider previews and testing, and all that feedback gets analyzed, and they do something about it. So in about 12 months from that insider preview, you can go and deploy that version. Once you're running a Windows build, if you haven't upgraded that version to a new version, you have about 60 days grace period. And then you're kind of forced to upgrade. So the process will repeat each year or each time. With each build, each release, you have to plan and prepare. So it's a whole process you need to look at. It seems daunting at first, but if you have your process going right, and it's really quite easy to implement, that it's really just the idea of running through a test trajectory or project to make sure that all your applications are working okay. So why do you need it? Well, I'm not going to scare you guys with slides of this hack has occurred or this threat or vulnerability exists. I mean, there's some guy with XP. I wouldn't want to be using any of these machines, but one of the reasons that makes Windows 10 safer is that it changes. Before a hacker somewhere can go and analyze zero-day exploits, Microsoft can patch that, make Windows 10 more secure. I'm sure you guys seen lots of security sessions this past week. So with each build of Windows 10, you're getting new features, new capabilities, better security to protect you against threats before they even occur. So Microsoft is constantly evolving the product by looking at what's happening out there. So whenever there's a new exploit, they're thinking, well, how are we going to prevent Windows 10 from getting infected to that kind of exploit? In fact, there's teams and people looking at all kinds of threats, things that don't even exist yet, to think, what can we do if one day such a threat would exist? So that constant evolving nature, that continuous improving security, working on the performance, make Windows 10 giving you a faster, more fluid performance. Think about Edge. It's one of the world's safest browsers to use. But Windows 10 still has IE 11 for the backward compatibility. So you're not stuck with your legacy applications. With the new modern workplace that's also available for those of you that are already using Azure AD to sign into those Windows 10 computers, using the cloud, Office 365, and offering your end users a different experience that gives you a better process to stay current. So you might have your reasons based on your application legacy, but by moving towards a cloud environment or cloud-friendly environment, a more modern workplace, you can stay more up to date. So with Windows 10 as a service, the idea is with the builds are released as deployment rings, similar to deployment groups that you might have already. So for those of you that have a process in place where you're first going to have some test users, maybe it's IT in the beginning. We normally use IT as our guinea pigs. So you're going to group your machines into deployment timelines where you have deployment rings. So each ring would reduce the risk of a particular deployment or feature update. And then you can gradually increase or release those builds within your company. So with the releases in Windows Update, you get feature updates and quality updates. And the feature updates, that's the new features, the new security features, the new capabilities that gets added. Quality updates are like normal updates. You know, just fixing something that might not be working or just tweaking something, like traditional Windows updates. The servicing branches, or the new terminology, channels. There's the semi-annual channel, so that would be your initial ring, deployment ring in your company. Those groups of machines that you want to target to get the latest builds, so you can start testing all your applications. And they could be IT, and quite often I advise power users or certain people in all the different organizations, in all department units. Because you want people to test their apps in a working environment. Not just for, okay, I've got my machine here that's newly installed with the new version and that app running, and then they just test that app. You want it in a live environment. So I always advise use some of those end users as well. And then once you've done all your testing and got your process of your testing sorted, you can go and do a broad deployment. So you'll have your targeted semi-annual channel used to be the current branch. And then you'll have your broader group, which is just called the semi-annual channel, before current branch for business. So after a while, each release, each semi-annual channel gets approved for business. And then there's the LTSB, or long-term servicing branch, or long-term servicing channel, for those special machines. A lot of my clients that work in refinery, mining, or have a specific machine that's not run by an end user, which means there's no office running on there, no administration work, but it runs a specific application that maybe drives some hardware or does a specific task. That's what you need LTSB for. Things that doesn't need to change. Things you want to keep stable. And with LTSB, it will stay stable for 10 years, up to 10 years. Granting you a stable environment for quite some time. So just to show you the simplified feature update model across Windows and Office, because they're combining the two. In fact, Configuration Manager has the same release schedule, because what you're going to use to deploy Windows, right? So with each version of Windows and Office combined, there'll be twice a year a semi-annual channel, and every 2 to 3 years you get a long-term servicing channel that will be set for 10 years. So those timelines will be identical for Office 365 and for Windows. Who's heard of the update compliance of Windows Analytics? There are a couple of sessions out here. I suggest you look up those sessions. I'll just talk about it briefly. But I find this is a handy tool to help you guys troubleshoot and get that process working to test all your machines and your applications with the new builds. So it's a handy tool. It's part of the Azure Operations Management Suite. So the Upgrade Analytics for Windows, Windows Analytics, and it will scan your environment, letting you know which machines are running which builds, which applications are compatible with those builds, and give you a lot of informative information that you can go and act on. It will just help you speed up your whole upgrade process. Now, some of the service branches, you can go and defer a particular feature update. So let's say I'm sitting good on the brand that I have, and I need more time, or I need at least 6 months to test, or 8 months, or a year. I can just set a policy on my machines to say, hey, don't accept that build for 10 months. And that will give you ample time to do enough testing. And then once your testing is done, you can just roll it out to all your machines. So there's different methods you could use, different applications. You could use WSUS or the standalone Windows Update on your machine. So you go into settings, and you can just select defer the update. You could use Configuration Manager and set up service plans. Most people use group policy. Who's using group policy for settings, right? So I'll show you how to do that. Or you could use Intune. Who's already using Intune to manage machines? Windows 10. Not that many people. I find that in Europe, we're also trying to move that number up a bit, especially now with the co-management. So you can manage using Configuration Manager and Intune on Windows 10 with the new full update. So I'm just going to exit and show you guys how to do the update using group policy. So I've got a demo machine running. It's currently running a build of Windows that's, let me just check. It's still a preview build, version 1703, or version 1703 that I'm running. Some of you might still be running what I've got on my laptop, which is 1607. Who's still running 1607, or who's running 1607? Quite a few of you. So I'll first show you this one. So you can set up group policies where you set up, first you're going to create groups of computers. So you create a pilot group, or you can call it semi-annual channel targeted. And then the policy that you would set would be in computer configuration, administrative templates, Windows components. Right at the bottom you have Windows Update. And you can configure automatic updates for that group. Under Windows Update, you have a folder called Defer Windows Update, and select when feature updates are received. So you can go and enable that feature. And for build 1607, it will still use the old terminology. And that's why I just wanted to show you guys where you can find that, how it looks, and the terminology. So you could just select current branch, and save that policy. And then you can create another group for your broad deployments, create a new policy, and select the current branch for business, and specify a deferral with a number of days, 60 days, 90 days, etc. So that's for the guys that are running 1607. For the new update, you pretty much go to the same location, computer configuration, administrative templates, Windows components, Windows Update, and then under Defer Updates, wait a minute, there we go. So under Windows Update, I now have Windows Update for Business. So I can select when preview builds and feature updates are received. Before, you couldn't really enable preview builds for your company. You had to manually enter that with a Microsoft account. But now, with the new fall update, you can enable the preview builds and the feature updates. So you can create policies within your company where you create groups and assign this policy to that group to get preview builds. So you don't have to individually go and assign that. I'm just going to enter the drop-down lists and show you that you have preview build. And because you get different rings of preview builds, where you either get it faster, immediately, or slow, or on the release. So from the new builds, it contains the new terminology of semi-annual channel targeted. So you'll select that, and then you can specify the number of days, and this time up to a year, that you can go and defer that. and then you'll just assign it to those machines, and they'll get the build as soon as it's released. For the machines that you want to lag behind or defer a little bit, you can put them on the semi-annual channel and add a deferral period, which will allow them to wait. So that's pretty much the group policies that you can set, which most people are using with Windows Update. So whenever those clients get the feature update, it will be downloaded locally. The user will be notified there's an update for you, and they'll just click and it will run and kick off the end user experience for an update. On restart, it will be a new build with new features, new capabilities. Let me just show you one more thing. If you go to the Windows Update in the settings, under Advanced Options, you can also pause the updates. So you could also either assign that through group policy or allow the end user to pause that. So I just showed you guys what you would do for WSUS or group policy. So you'll enable updates. Most people have updates already enabled. So you select which feature upgrade to exist. You create your computer groups. So you'll create groups of test machines, and then you'd have the rest of your machines in another group. Or you could create separate stacked groups. It's all about the type of process that you will be applying in your company. And then you can create an automatic approval rule. Pretty much the same thing you guys are already doing. And then really that configuring the group policy object with the semi-annual channel targeted for that specific test group. Enable client-side targeting so that that update is only pushed to those machines, and then verify that the targeting was successful through test. For those of you that do Configuration Manager or use Configuration Manager, so you create your collections. That's where you create your groups for your different deployments. And you create a servicing plan for each group or collection that you have. You create an upgrade package, and then you'll distribute that upgrade package like in a task sequence or deploy the new task sequence. For Intune, it's really just configuring a specific setting or data type list with specific values for the channel readiness level. So ideally, the vendor Microsoft policy configuration, the slides will be made available after the session for you guys to go and test this. Any questions? So I've shown you guys the group policy demo, but I want to leave you guys with some resources where you can go and look at the Windows Analytics and readiness for Windows. So with that link, you can help set up your company for Windows Analytics, set up an OMS, tenant or workspace. I'll let you in on a secret, or at least it's not a secret. It's really free to use Windows Analytics in OMS and Azure because the license sits with your enterprise of Windows. So all this analytics servers is free to use because the licensing sits in Windows. There's more documentation on that link and also videos from the team. I've got more IT Pro resources. There's still going to be a lot of sessions available this week. So I suggest you join the Insider program, insiders.windows.com, and test the preview builds, because there's new features coming out, and it's best to start with the latest build that's being released sometime next month, instead of still going back. So try and do your testing. It's more or less setting up the process. The technology is there. And depending on the type of company you are, maybe you're ready for the modern workplace, maybe you're not. Maybe you still need the classic or more conservative workplace, as I call it, to support those legacy applications. So I'm pretty much done with my session. If you have any questions, we still have some time for questions. And I'm interested to know how you guys have it sorted in your enterprise. So, please evaluate the session either through the app or through My Ignite. And for those of you that have some time to do labs, they have this lab in the hands-on lab session. It's just down the hall on the left. They have tons of surfaces just lying there with the labs. You could either do it through the Surface tablets available or through the My Ignite link. They're also available online, where you can go and try setting up Windows as a Surface through Windows Update for Business, through WSUS, or Configuration Manager, and Intune. So all the steps, try it out, and see which one works for you. So it's actually step-by-step information on that lab. So with that, thank you for coming. Yeah.